Once again, a month has passed since my last video, and once again I don't have good news to share. Work on Divine Dream and Copper 9 Combat Engine is still paused. I have re-released two of my old projects. The first one is Tetromino Recycling Facility, a very basic puzzle game about filling up squares of different sizes with tetrominos. I really don't have much to say about it, other than mentioning that it needed very little work, as the initially released version was one of the most polished games I've made. The same cannot be said for the Infinity Galactic Race, which, terrible name aside, is a far more interesting project. Originally it was meant to be a racing game with tanks, where you controlled each thread separately using a pair of sliders. And that made it my third game, after Alchemist's Aid and one more that I have yet to re-release, where the main gimmick was a unique control scheme using sliders on a touchscreen. Also, funnily enough, tank controls is a term in video games, but it refers to a completely different thing. And while it was supposed to be a game with tanks, when first prototyping the controls, I used the default settings of the Unity's rigid body, which are very slippery, reminding me of the way things move in Zero-G. So I decided to run with that idea, especially since that kind of slippery movement allowed for drifting, which wouldn't really be a thing with more rigid movement of a tank. I made the game during a time when my brother's friend was helping me out with graphics for my projects, resulting in every level having its own unique background. I made 8 levels in total for that game, 4 of them being just straightforward tracks, and 4 having some kind of gimmick to them. The first one is rather basic, the track overlapping with itself in one place, as I was just figuring out what I might be able to do. Then I went all out, and for the second track had it take place around a dying star. As you pass it on your first lap, you can see something happening to it, and in the second lap, the moment you lose sight of it, it goes supernova and the shockwave from the explosion passes over the racetrack, pushing you until you slam into the wall. Then, by the time you reach the second half of that lap, you are engulfed in the cloud of gas and plasma that remains from the star. And also the racetrack itself expands on every lap to suit this concept. Another map that I am quite proud of takes place around a black hole, which is constantly pulling your ship towards it and distorting your view, both effects intensifying as you get closer to it. I had to place a generous amount of boost pads on that map to ensure that it's actually possible to complete it with every type of ship, including the slower ones, meant to be used while you familiarize yourself with the control scheme. And the last one is a maze, with a layout that cycles between 3 versions, changing each time you pass a checkpoint, going through the remains of a giant spaceship. Or perhaps it's a regular-sized spaceship, and this game is about racing an equivalent of RC cars. That map is also the only one which I redesigned for the re-release, as originally the optimal play was to just not engage with its gimmick and always take what is obviously the shortest path in the moment. Besides that, I added an option to zoom out the camera, made it so the game tracks your 3 best times on each map and replays them so you have something to race against, and most importantly implemented joystick controls, where, to match the original concept, you use both the analog sticks, moving them up and down. Also, the best times I achieved while playtesting are included in the game. They are not optimized in the slightest, so they shouldn't be too hard to beat, but might still provide a fun challenge for someone who wants a goal to strive towards. And yes, I re-released only 2 games this month, because I got sidetracked again. This time I noticed there were a lot of job offers for .NET developers. .NET, for those who don't know, is a framework for building applications, which happens to be using C#, the same programming language as Unity. So it stood to reason that it would be relatively easy to transfer my skills in Unity development to .NET, which turned out mostly correct, though I have to say that I am not enjoying this. Period. Well, it's not actually that bad. At the end of the day, the coding itself is still something I enjoy, but I wanted to make that joke. I do have problems working on it, but I don't feel like this is the place to talk about them, since it isn't concerning games I'm developing. So until next time, farewell.